Welcome back to Mom and Pop Video Shop. I'm Joel.
And I am Tyson.
Indeed he is. He is Tyson. I checked. I am happy to report that we are here for the tres. We are doing the third, I forgot what it's called, the weekend rental recommendation versus episode where you, our wonderful customer, come in on a Friday night, you don't know what to watch, you know the genre. You're like, I got an idea. I'd like to see, we've already done horror and comedy, linked in the description below, indeed. And you come in and you say, I want a certain type of movie. I don't know. There's just so much to choose from. I hold the boxes in my hand. I read descriptions, but I don't know. And sadly, we are your options. But that's the way it is, folks, because we're the clerks that they hired, and this is what it is. Blame Mom and Pop. But we are going to discuss, for this episode, for this recommendation episode, we are doing action.
Yo.
And I feel like action can be like a mix, kind of like horror in that way, like, or sci-fi, where it can be a mix of genres, like sci-fi action, comedy action. I mean, it's all kind of stuff. So we're doing action. Before we get into our picks, make sure you stay to the end, because what we're trying to do in these videos is, by the end, we are going to have a surprise third pick for you that we sort of make up on the fly, as if you were standing there. We didn't have the technology of today, and we have to kind of use our brains the best we can. And believe me, it's a strain, at least for some of us, that we come up with something that we think would be a good third pick, just in case you didn't like the two we picked earlier, and where you can find these online streaming, assuming they are available.
And I think we need to throw this out here too and let them know that they should believe us when we say we don't know what the other one has picked.
Yes.
So our picks are completely unknown to each other.
Yes. Because again, it's like because you came to us in the middle of the store, we were stocking shelves and doing inventory and putting away the milk duds and the whatnots, and you're like, hey, and it's like it's one of the things where you came to him to ask, and then I overheard. And I did that really obnoxious thing where I butt in and I have to like geek explain.
And you're trying to take my commission from Mom and Pop.
Which really doesn't exist. So on that note, what'd you pick, Tyson? What are you telling them? What are you telling them?
So for action night,
okay,
I'm pulling out a big gun.
Okay.
Action Jackson.
All right, full disclosure, I had 100% feeling he was picking this one because way early on when we first started talking about doing this channel.
Yeah, this is my Action Jackson dance.
He totally said he was going to do Action Jackson like early on, so yeah. I pretty much knew that's what he was picking.
I feel like anybody that's born in the last 20 years that tries to watch Action Jackson is either going to hate it or laugh at how cheeseball it is. And anybody our age that maybe hasn't seen this for 30 some odd years, it is going to be an absolute nostalgic
and I
delight.
feel like, would you say it's sort of like, it's definitely related to blaxploitation?
Oh, 100%. I feel like I've read up on some of this, and the concept came from Carl Weathers chatting with Joel Silver.
Okay.
I think on the set of Predator. Okay. And they were talking about the old blaxploitation films from the 70s.
Yes.
They said, well, I would love to do something like that.
Yes.
And that's where the idea for Action Jackson.
Yes.
And it is a Joel Silver movie, so I've joked about this before. You're basically, if you take the entire cast of Die Hard, Lethal Weapon, at least half the cast of Predator, and put it all together with Sharon Stone and Craig T. Nelson, see that name or those names in the credits, you before an entire
it's just like you're going to get like a balls to the wall action flick.
There's going to be some gunshots and some explosions.
Yeah, lots of stuff.
You get plenty in Action Jackson. Yes. So first of all, one of the things I want to talk about was the first time I ever saw this. Yes. And I'm going to share some with you. I don't think you knew about me.
Okay.
So growing up, my family, we were in the grocery business. So my grandfather owned a couple grocery stores, one of which was in this little bitty teeny tiny town of Kinmundy, Illinois. And it was as far as I know, the only place in town that had a little video rental section in the store. It's the only place I know of in town that you could go and buy fried chicken, bullets, get a blue slushie. No, it wasn't slush puppy.
Oh yeah, slush puppies. I remember slush puppies.
And rent Action Jackson. So I was up there playing.
Literally, what else does like a 10-year-old need?
Exactly.
Bullets, slush puppies, and Action Jackson.
I used to love tagging along when nobody else could deal with me. They'd say, well, go with your grandpa to work today. So I would go hang out at the store and eat fried chicken.
Is that the one where you said they had the Elvira standee?
That was the liquor store we had. Yeah. The Coors Light Elvira Stanley. So I had a great childhood. Not gonna lie, but I mean here and there are some.
It does explain a lot.
Look, spoiler alert. There's some boobies in Action Jackson.
Yeah.
So,
Vanity, right? She
and Sharon Stone.
Oh, you know what's weird though? I always
forget that she's.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
I always forget she's in Total Recall as well.
Yeah.
It's like 2 movies I never think of her being in. Vanity's the first person.
And a couple episodes of Magnum PI, if you want to be a Sharon Stone completist or a Tom Selleck completist like me. So when did you say the most recent time you saw Action Jackson?
Within the last, I feel like it's the last 5 or so years, but I mean, Peter would be telling me it was like 9 years ago.
I hadn't seen it in a long time, and here's the thing that struck me about this movie: the puns. Now we know 80s movies are known for their puns, but dude, Action Jackson, it's like if you cast Arnold Schwarzenegger as Freddy Krueger to star in a Nightmare on Elm Street themed James Bond movie,
then
you might reach the level of like puns and one-liners that you get in Action Jackson. It is, for that reason alone,
amazing.
Action Jackson is my pick for action night.
Okay. I have a feeling you probably knew I was picking this movie. But this is another one. This is like a childhood. I remember going to Armchair Theater in Winter Haven, Florida with my dad on the weekend and seeing the poster for this on the wall, thinking it's amazing. It's actually hanging in the shop right now, giving it away to you. And it is Eliminators. You had to know I was covering it.
I knew it was coming.
Yeah. I showed this to my kids for the first time yesterday. My middle son, Connor, kept asking, Dad, they never made action figures? Because like of all the characters, he wants the Mandroid, he wanted Fontaine. My oldest, Max, he said, Fontaine is like if you took Han Solo, because it's totally supposed to be a Han Solo, roguish pirate type character, and mixed him with Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. It's like
great.
so played by Andrew Prine. I couldn't stop laughing because it was so perfect. And then Kuji, the ninja that just sort of randomly shows up in the third act. You've got the Spot, the little R2D2-esque robot sidekick that they have to use. Denise Crosby as the beautiful scientist the mom from Pet Cemetery, and Tasha Yar from SNG.
Why do we have to even bring up the Pet Cemetery word around me?
Because it's one of the greatest horror movies of all time.
Rachel! Don't.
Which is also your wife's name. I just realized that works nicely, doesn't it?
And I have to sleep next to her.
But she's Rachel. She's not Zelda. She's Zelda. I get the issue.
It's been a thing with me. For
I know it has.
years.
We'll get to that. I'm sure we'll get to that. So Eliminators, again, I remember renting this like in 1986-ish, that time frame, 10, 11 years old. Perfect age for this movie. Like, and my kid said, Dad, when you saw it, did you think it was cheesy? I was like, no. Because they could be like, how cheesy is it, Dad? I was like, it's not. It's awesome. And we watched it, and yes, okay, by some people's standards, cheese might be involved. That being said, they all acknowledged it is 90-something minutes of just random nuttiness. It is nonstop. I mean,
perfect for a Friday night in 1986.
Yes, 1986. It was an Empire Pictures, Charles Band produced movie.
Nice.
So it's got a lot of crossover there with that kind of stuff. So if you're a fan of Full Moon and their subsequent earlier incarnation as Empire Pictures, Eliminators, definitely worth checking out. So on that note, then I guess we'll have to try to figure out how do we connect these two.
Well, just the whole time you were talking, I was trying to think of other like ensemble adventure type movies. I don't know how you connect the two, but
well, Carl Weathers is in another ensemble.
Well, of course.
You mentioned
but
earlier.
how do you tie that to?
Is it too obvious to pick that one?
Predator?
Yes.
So here's the thing: we talked about Total Recall, who she was also in with Schwarzenegger.
Yep.
And there's
a Predator connection.
And to me, that's kind of sci-fi.
Yeah. Oh, and he definitely looks like he is. He looks like a cross between. This is actually pre-RoboCop, but he's definitely a cross between like RoboCop and Terminator. Like you get to.
And I was thinking RoboCop too, not in no small part because of the shirt that you're wearing underneath.
That apparently we like wearing the same wardrobe for these particular videos.
Exactly. So I don't know. I say we keep it simple and go with either RoboCop or Total Recall as a third pick.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to come up with something obscure or like harder to find.
Okay. All right, let's think.
3 hours later.
So I haven't cheated. I know this has been probably edited because it's taking a long time to think of something. But let me think.
4 to 6 days later.
Okay, so we did cut, but that's not because we cheated. Believe us or don't. It's because we literally were taking forever to come up. Because initially we were thinking Predator or Total Recall. And they're like, okay, those are kind of obvious. We assume you probably have seen those. So we're going to pick one we aren't sure everyone's seen. I know I've seen it. It's been forever. My dad rented this for me when I was like a little kid. Again, actually, same year as this one, 1986.
So was it 86?
I believe it was 86. Okay. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I'm doing this off the cuff, so I could be wrong. I think it was 86. But it does loosely connect to our previous recommendation video where the Heavenly Kid was used, which had Jason Gedrick, Iron Eagle, which had Louis Gossett Jr.
And the connection we made is that because Sonny Landham, who plays Billy in Predator, and he also has a fight scene with Carl Weathers and Action Jackson.
And because Chuck Norris, who's also in this movie, maybe you know what it is already, does lots of martial arts, much like Kuji the Ninja. And
that's how we tied us together.
Yeah.
So your bonus recommendation for Action Night is 1986's, we believe.
What do you think?
Firestar. I almost said Firestar. Shit. So your...
I'm keeping that in. Just go. Just go.
So your bonus rental for Action Night is 1986's Firewalker.
Yes, and I have not seen that movie in forever. I remember it being kind of cheesy, but this is coming from a guy who's pitched Eliminators.
I've probably seen it in the last 2 years, though. It is like
super cheesy,
a
but
perfect
fun.
video rental store.
Yeah.
Find
Eliminators,
Action Jackson,
and Firewalker. Definitely should check any of those out. So in the comments below, let us know if you would choose any of these movies. So where you can find these online. This is going to be a tricky one because one of these movies is very difficult. It may be impossible to find streaming unless you're sailing the seven seas, arg. But before we get to that.
Oh, I get it.
So,
well, the good news is, I guess, Action Jackson is much easier to find online.
Yeah. Some of us pick obscure movies that are like deep dives, and other people find, very mainstream, safe. You could say establishment.
I guess the bad news is it doesn't seem that it is streaming free anywhere. So again, my first recommendation is always going to be to pick up a physical copy. But if you're just interested in throwing a few bucks at a rental, it looks pretty much the main places. I'm looking at Vudu, Prime Video to rent, Google Play, Apple TV, iTunes, and it looks like you can even rent it via YouTube.
And for Eliminators, I don't know why I bothered clicking on the tab for where this is available, because it's not. It's not available anywhere. And this is it right here. So here's the deal. eBay has VHS copies, and they range 15 to 20 bucks a piece. So it's actually not that bad for VHS if you happen to have a VCR. If you don't and you want the Blu-ray, it's a double Blu-ray with the Dungeon Master. 60 bucks, because apparently it's out of print. I am really hoping we get a new version of this, because that's insane. I love this movie. It's one of my all-time childhood favorites. But 60 bucks for a Blu-ray?
Something tells me that if they do re-release it at a...
We'll do a review.
I think you'll probably hear about it on this channel.
100%.
Sure. Let us know what you would pick for Action Night between Action Jackson or the Eliminators.
Or Firewalker.
And
so then thank you again for joining us for this video. Checking out our other ones. As we said, they're in the description below. We did horror, comedy. This is action. I don't know what we're going to do next. Maybe we'll do another horror. Maybe we'll do sci-fi.
Nature documentaries.
Yeah, probably not. Rom-com also. He mentioned that. I don't know. We'll see.
I like a good rom-com.
Good for you. All right. So on that note, remember at Mom and Pop's, our love of...
The Octagon? Chuck Norris?
Yeah, I like that.
We're on a Chuck Norris kick.
Yeah. Never stops.
Everybody wants something from him. The professional who wants targets.
If you saw ninjas, you're seeing ghosts.
An heiress who wants revenge.
I want to know who they are.
The man he once called brother is now his deadly enemy.
You don't torment me anymore, Sakura.
A prisoner of his own destiny. He will find freedom only one way. Chuck Norris, Karen Carlson, Lee Van Cleef, The Octagon.
This might have been one of my earliest booby movies.
Yeah.
I don't remember for sure.
By the way, we're definitely the clerks that you'd be happy to talk to. We started having a conversation.
We're going to do a booby movie series.
We're little, like I would have my 8-year-old self.
Welcome back to this episode of the booby movie series.
It's a different YouTube channel.